You're listening to The White Rabbit, conversations on the art of presenting in a rather noisy world. Your hosts are Matt Krause and Alper Rozanes. Matt helps leaders of international companies speak, write, and present with confidence. Alper is a communications trainer and a startup investor with a diverse portfolio of companies in Barcelona. If you like this podcast, please share it with friends and colleagues. Now, on to Matt and Alper for today's conversation.
Alper, I've had something on my mind recently. Believe it or not, I occasionally think about stuff.
It's difficult to believe.
Yes.
It's difficult to believe, yeah.
And the thing that has been on my mind is specialization. And I guess the reason that it's been on my mind recently is that about a year ago, I became more involved with the slide design community. And
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are you sure about that?
So one thing that repeatedly strikes me about that community is the general lack of specialization. Not that everybody in that industry is not specialized, but there's a general lack of specialization. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe they know something that I don't, and I'm not an expert on the subject of specialization. So I'll leave that for someone else to analyze the situation. I'll leave the analysis to someone else.
Okay.
The most that I can do, I guess, is tell the story of my own experience with specialization over the years. So
that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
It started when I came back from the walk across Turkey about 10 years ago, and we've talked about that in the podcast before.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, and at that point, I had no specialization whatsoever. I was just a guy who needed some cash, and I looked around at what people were asking for, and they were asking for someone to teach them English. So that's what I did. But pretty soon I realized that I needed to raise my prices, and I couldn't do it much.
Teaching English, you mean?
Yeah, teaching English. I needed to raise my prices.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. And there were too many. I needed to raise my prices, and I couldn't do it much. There were too many of what I call backpacker kids. And by backpacker kids, I mean the 25-year-old kids. They've picked up English as a second language somewhere. They've got a teaching certificate. And now they're traveling around the world, and they're passing through Istanbul. They're on the bank of mom and dad. And they just want to pick up a few extra bucks for beers and weed or something.
The second one wouldn't be that easy to the best of my knowledge, but sure, go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, I was starting a business, however. So I needed to be able to raise my prices in a way that they did not. So I asked myself, what can I do that they can't? And I looked around, and I noticed that 75% of my clients, about 75%, were either board members or CEOs of big publicly traded companies. And that group of people wouldn't touch those backpacker kids if their lives depended on it. Even if their lives depended on it, they would have nothing to do with those kids. So that's what I specialized in. It wasn't so much an industry vertical specialization. It was just a specialization in who I was working for.
Okay.
That was about 2014. And I call myself an English teacher at that time, but I wasn't really teaching English at all. Like with one client, for example, I was mostly discussing TED Talks. And with another client, I was mostly looking at Google Earth and discussing dams in Ethiopia. To this day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, to this day, I'm not sure what you would call what I was doing, but whatever you would call it, I had created a moat or a barrier that would protect me from price competition. So that's basically Matt's first phase of specialization, protecting myself from price competition.
That sounds all right.
Yeah. And so around this time, around 2015 or so, my business started to morph from teaching English or whatever that was, whatever I was doing. It started to morph from that into presentation training. And actually, I had been doing presentation training since about 2007. So it wasn't really, in 2015, I started presentation training. It was more like in 2015, presentation training became my primary source of income.
Okay.
And at about that same time, so we're talking, late 2015 or 2016 or so, I thought the specialization thing, it's worked very well for me. So I'm going to double down on it and see where it takes me. So I started to refine it to focus my vertical specialization. And the reason I did that was to reduce my cost of sales. I looked around and saw that of my existing clients, almost all of them were in finance. And by finance, I mean banking, asset management, insurance, stuff like that. So I decided that would be my vertical, finance. And man, it did not go.
I'll have a question on that.
Okay.
It didn't go well.
No, it did not go well at all.
So it did.
It was a complete.
Okay, I'll skip my question.
It was a complete disaster. Those people, the finance people.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, those people, the finance people, they gave me radio silence like I've never seen before. I tried a gazillion different things.
Wow.
And I was lucky if even one person would say hello to me. I have theories on why the reception was so cold, but it's highly likely that I misunderstand the situation and those theories are wrong. So I'm not going to go into those theories here.
Okay.
Then it took me a couple years of banging my head on the wall, trying unsuccessfully to make a go of it, before I came to terms with the fact that I just needed to give up on these finance people. It was never going to happen for me. And I didn't know then, and I still don't know now why it didn't work out. It just didn't.
Yeah, I was going to ask, but you just said that you don't know. Okay.
Yeah, even to this day, I don't understand why it did not work out. I have my theories, but God knows how wrong they are. But whatever it is, for whatever reason it just didn't work out. So I looked around again at the people who, over the years had liked talking to me and who I had liked talking to. In other words, the people that I had electricity with. And some of them were clients. Most of them were not.
So people did say hi to you.
Yes, I had a much better experience with this group of people.
Okay.
And whether they were clients or not clients, I don't think it really matters. It's the main question is just who do you have two-way, not one-way, because with the finance people, I had one-way electricity. I was very interested in talking to them. But one-way electricity is not good enough. You need two-way electricity. Who do you have two-way electricity with? And for me, for years, even long before I had my own business, that two-way electricity had been with engineers. I don't know why, it just was.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that became my vertical specialty. And it's gone much better than those years beating my head against the wall, trying to get finance people to talk to me. It's gone much, much better than that. So that brings me to one of the key lessons of specialization is that if you don't like yours, if you don't like your specialization, just change it. It's no big deal. One of the most common pushbacks against specialization.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe it's easier said than done, but I would ask your thoughts about what would be some of the pushbacks?
Yeah, one of the most common pushbacks against specialization is fear. It's the fear of, am I going to get bored of this? What if I make the wrong choice? Am I going to be stuck doing this for the rest of my life? And the answer is a resounding no. If you don't like your specialization, just change it. Like I changed mine from finance to engineers. The old people probably won't even notice that you left. I mean, that's kind of why you're leaving, because they didn't even notice that you were there.
In the first place. Yeah.
So the old people probably won't even notice you left. And
Matt is not coming into the building anymore. Who?
Yeah, who? And the new people, they're going to be happy to have you. So besides, you're going to get to bring 90% of your old skills anyway. It's not like you're going to have to spend the rest of your life learning a new skill.
Yeah.
Like in our world, the core skills are PowerPoint and storytelling. And your new specialty is going to need those core skills from you just as much as your old specialty did.
Yeah, of
so
course.
You're going to get to, 90% of the stuff that you're going to get to bring along. Another thing that I've learned when picking your vertical is look at your Dunbar's circle. And I don't know, are you familiar with the Dunbar's law of 150 people?
I think you had mentioned it to me, but I don't remember the specific details. So tell me.
Yeah, the Dunbar's law, or the Dunbar's law of 150 people, is that on average, people are going to have about 150 people that they know the names of and greet on the street. And some people are going to have less and some people are going to have more, but on average, it's going to be about 150 people.
Okay.
So look at your Dunbar circle and see if there's a group in there that is disproportionately represented. In my case, it was engineers. And if there is a group that is disproportionately represented, that's your vertical. Maybe not those particular 150 people, but what they do. Because basically, with that Dunbar circle, you have decades of real life evidence that for whatever reason, these people like to hang out with you and you like to hang out with them. There's electricity there. And you're in business, so you're going to need to sell. And it's a lot easier to sell to someone that you have electricity with. So anyway, anyway, that's my specialization journey. Basically, it comes down to two phases. One is build a moat to protect your pricing. And then two is find the people you have electricity with so you can reduce your cost of sales. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is that specialization is never done. It's not a one and done sort of thing. You'll be refining your specialization for the rest of your life. And one of the reasons for that is that after you get into your specialty a bit, you'll realize that you're not specialized at all. Like for me, for example, I do presentation skills for engineers. And that used to sound, some years ago, pretty specialized. But once I got into that group, I realized that there are software engineers and there are food safety engineers and there are construction engineers. There are a gazillion different kinds of engineers. So I am sure that at some point I'll realize that my client list is predominantly made up of one of those types, and I'll start the specialization process all over again. It's not a one and done sort of thing.
And you'll dig deeper.
Yeah, I'll dig deeper. I'll look at the client list. I'll realize that, most of them are food safety engineers, or most of them are software engineers, or most of them are some variety of engineers. And that will become, I'll further specialize in that particular aspect of being an engineer.
Well, I have a question on that.
Sure.
You talked about some of the telltale signs of the need to specialize further. And I believe one of the biggest signs is like people ignoring you or having one way, not saying hi or something. Other than the obvious ones, let's say, what could be other signs? I mean, imagine you're doing business, but you're not thriving. You're not suffering, but you're not thriving either. And you feel like you're stuck. So in that case, what could be some of the signs that the way out of that state of being stuck would be a vertical specialization?
Yeah. So are you asking what are some of the signs that you're stuck in the wrong vertical specialization?
No, let's say you feel stuck. I mean, you feel that you need to make a change, but you're not aware of specialization. So you don't have the awareness. But from an outside perspective, that's what you should do. What could the person who is stuck in that situation look at for signs to see, okay, I need some further specialization?
Well, the main point of specialization, from my perspective, the main point of specialization is to build a moat to build a barrier between you and the rest of the world. So if you see your business facing a lot of pricing competition, that's the resounding signal that, it is probably time to specialize. If there's a pricing race to the bottom, or whatever they call it, a pricing race to the bottom, or the race to zero, or whatever they call it. If there's a pricing race to the bottom, then that's like the first resounding sign that you need to specialize.
Okay, that's a great answer. So if we find ourselves dealing with negotiations, price negotiations, but aggressive price negotiations, and if we feel that the only way not to miss the opportunity is to lower the price, then you're saying that we might be needing to look at some vertical specialization.
Yeah, and in specialization, there seems to be like a horizontal specialization, and a horizontal specialization would be the skills and the tools you use. Like in our example, or in our case, it would be the ability to use PowerPoint. That is a horizontal specialization. A vertical specialization is what industry are you using that tool for? In let's say finance. Let's say that you're using PowerPoint for people in finance, so obviously the people in the slide design world seem to have the horizontal specialization down completely because they know PowerPoint like no one else, and so they've got the horizontal part down absolutely. So the part that I notice is missing is the vertical specialization. And it seems like
the vertical one.
Yeah, it seems like in my experience, one of the main reasons for having a vertical specialization is to reduce your cost of sale. Because if you are, let's say that you've got the horizontal specialization down, and so you've got the PowerPoint skills down. People know when you walk into the room, this is the PowerPoint god. We don't get to question that. This person is the PowerPoint god. So you've got the horizontal specialization down. But there are a gazillion people who have the PowerPoint specialization down. And so if you're facing price competition from those other horizontal experts, the PowerPoint experts, then you need the vertical. That's where the vertical specialization comes in. And so by reducing the cost of sale, I mean, like, for example, reducing the discounts that you have to give. If the if the client is saying, well, you're asking for X, but everybody else is quoting 0.5X. So in order to be competitive, you have to do 0.5X. So you have a large cost of sale. The vertical specialization reduces the number of people who are coming in and pushing you down towards 0.5X. Maybe they're just pushing you down to 0.8X. That's what I mean by reducing your cost of sale.
Well, I definitely like what this conversation is headed to, and pricing negotiations in the creative arena. We're running out of time, but I would definitely want to pick this up with you again, because last week, I believe we talked about sales presentations and some of the pushbacks that we could get from the audiences, including price pushbacks, price-related pushbacks.
Yeah.
So I would want to dig deeper into this theme in the future episodes.
That sounds like an excellent idea. I'm definitely down for that.
All right.
All right, so we'll talk to you later then.
All right, see you next week.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you for listening to The White Rabbit with Matt Krause and Alper Rozanes. You can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or through your favorite feed.